Welcome to Business Digest Radio, Southern Colorado's source for business, policy, economics, workforce, and innovation. Brought to you by Colorado Media Group. Here's your host, Dirk Hobbs.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Business Digest Radio program. I am your host, Dirk Hobbs. Welcome back. Hope you are well and your businesses are flourishing this past week. It's been another busy week here in Southern Colorado on many fronts. Economic development, of course, has one big project that it is cooking on the stove right now that a lot of people have become at least cursorily familiar with, and that is the AI data center on the Garden of the Gods corridor. We had Jonna Reeder-Claymire step up and take that seat at Fox 21 News' Business Insider this past week, and she did a great job lending some insights into what a data center is and what it is not. And I think that was very helpful for a lot of folks to understand what they are and how they have, like most things, have evolved into a much more prolific and dynamic engine. They were water and energy consumers like few other things that man has built, frankly, but they have now designed components like the infinite loop water system that are helping those organizations to utilize less water and basically recycle an initial amount out of the resource pond and then keep utilizing that for a long period of time. So while the site is permitted to use over 1 million gallons of water a day, they will use far less, scooping out maybe 200 to 250,000 gallons initially, and then circulating that water through their system over and over again. Now, there are still some very legitimate ongoing concerns and questions about energy utilization, downtime, will there be blackouts, things like that. I mean, they're valid questions on the surface, but make sure you do your homework. Stay in touch with the Business Digest, the EDC, and other subject matter experts who can help you understand what these are. But the tool on the economic development side is a great instrument for attracting businesses, particularly in our economic strong sectors. For example, aerospace and defense, cyber, and quantum. They utilize a lot of power themselves, but they also need these data centers within certain proximity to function well or optimally. And so we want to make sure we're giving as much good information to you as possible, validating some of the concerns that are coming back from the audience, not knowing what these data centers are. Perfectly understandable. But let's walk through it, talk through it, and see if we can come to an accord where we welcome an employer like Radin to come into Colorado Springs, set up shop, and they're going to be planting about $3 billion worth of computers in that center initially. So the tax ramifications for us as a region, I mean, that's good money, as they say, to help us mitigate some of our shortfalls here on the home front and keep all those utilities and roads and nice to haves that we like here in Colorado Springs more fully operational. So anyway, just wanted to throw that out there. Thanks to Jonna Reeder-Claymire over at the Colorado Springs Chamber and EDC, Danny Bowling, and some other folks who helped coordinate Jonna's appearance on Fox. I encourage you to go out there and listen to what she's saying very carefully, and then go back to the podcast we had with Jason Green, who's the COO at Radin, who's the company that is proposing to come here to Colorado Springs. It's not going to be a job boon, probably 60 to 100 jobs, because these data centers simply don't need that many human beings operating it. But all of those companies need these databases and data centers to be able to do the business that we become accustomed to online as consumers. So anyway, do your homework. If you want to join us on a regular basis, go to socodigest.com/subscribe. Pick up a copy of yours and stay in the know on this and many other discussions from Arapahoe County south to Trinidad and from Canyon City east to Kansas. All right, let's get to work, shall we? We've got a very special guest, somebody I've had the privilege of interviewing a couple times here in Southern Colorado. You may know Sallie Clark as former representative here in Colorado Springs. Glad you're with us.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here again.
It's nice to see you, and you're in purple today, not red.
I know. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to say,
No, not at all. I almost had a running bet with myself. I'd buy myself a hamburger if you were in a red coat. So anyway, welcome.
Thank you.
Glad you're with me.
Thanks very much.
So you're about a year into this new post that you have. You are now the state director for Rural Development Colorado for the United States Department of Agriculture.
That's correct.
Okay. Well, unpack that for us and tell us what that job is.
Well, I had this job before. So prior to that, from 2017 to 2021, I was in the same position. And so it's been a little easier, I think, for me than some of my counterparts around the country to kind of move back into the role with a few changes along the way. But in May of last year, I was reappointed by President Trump, and I work for Secretary Brooke Rollins with USDA.
Very good.
So rural development essentially is one of 7 mission areas in USDA.
Okay.
We really function more as, I would say, the economic development arm of USDA. We do everything from affordable housing to business and economic development and community infrastructure, which also includes water and wastewater. So really, we help build those communities, those Main Street USAs from the ground up that farmers and ranchers utilize with their families. And hopefully, we help rural America to be prosperous.
Absolutely. Well, when you say affordable housing, now you've got a lot of listeners leaning in, because that is obviously a very hot button topic here in the state of Colorado. We're one of the more expensive states in the nation at present. So how are we doing in terms of overall, just an overview? How are we doing on that front? And are you seeing an ability of your agency to affect change?
We are. The one thing that sets us apart, I think, from other housing programs within the state is that we only do rural.
Correct.
So,
right.
And those numbers really kind of change. So essentially, it's under 50,000 is how you define rural. But each of our programs is a little bit different, and we have 70 plus programs under rural development.
Wow.
So there are state directors like me, and there's 47 of us that serve in the same role. Some actually oversee several states or places like Hawaii, where they also have, not only the Hawaiian Islands, but they also are having to keep track of some of the other communities and other, like Puerto Rico has its own state director as well. So we have offices around the state as well as in Denver, and our focus is only rural. So we'll do direct and guaranteed loans for homes. The great thing is there's no money down. For the lowest of incomes, they can participate in our direct loans that go directly through USDA.
Yeah.
So, and it's a very good program, and it helps people get that little hand up to get into homeownership.
No doubt about it. And we need our farm communities to really thrive here in Southern Colorado, because around the periphery of the I-25 corridor, we've got a lot going on out there.
Well, we kind of forget, I think, too, that there's so much focus on the urban areas that it's easy to forget that these little towns exist. I was in a little town called Cheraw. It's Cheraw recently, and we are doing a pretty major wastewater project there in that community. And the mayor is essentially running everything in a town of, a couple hundred people. I mean, these are towns that would struggle without the partnerships that we have with rural development.
Yeah, no question about it. Now, do you spend most of your time in Denver, or are you just in the car?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, most of what I do is my focus as the state directors, their focus is doing outreach. So we're getting out into those rural communities. We're doing ribbon cuttings. We're awarding grants. We're awarding, maybe be a large loan. Those are the things that I'm out there doing, and talking to different communities about how we can help them. We don't want to be the best kept secret. We want to be the best well known to help these small rural communities to thrive. And if they're struggling, to give them that little bit of a hand up.
Well, it must feel pretty altruistic. I mean, what you're doing, I mean, you're helping people really evolve into that next level and get comfortable being in a small community, being able to sustain there, and then of course do their passion work, whether it's in the farm or just a retailer in a small town.
Well, for instance, we were in Green Mountain Falls a few weeks ago, providing a search grant which will help for engineering for the town of Green Mountain Falls. They don't have the money in their little town coffers to be able to pay for an engineering firm, so we were able to provide a grant for them to do the study. We're hoping that will be done by the end of the year. But Mayor Todd Dixon was, very excited to welcome us there.
That's good.
To be, to give them that little bit of help. And that's in El Paso County. So we can serve parts of El Paso County, even though we can't serve the city of Colorado Springs. A little too big.
Understood. Well, when we come back, we're going to do a deeper dive into what Sallie's doing. Are you enjoying the ride?
I love it.
Yeah. This seems like a fun gig.
It just warms your heart to see what's happening in rural America.
And we need that support, because even though the urban centers are kind of they dominate the news cycle, I mean, these in a very, very material way are supporting our lifestyles here in the urban centers.
Well, think of where our food comes from. I mean, it doesn't come from the city of Colorado Springs. It may come from the grocery store, but it had to start somewhere else, and it had to travel on a rural road, and it had to be, packaged by someone. And there are, I think that's sometimes that we forget. Our kids go into the grocery store and they think the food comes from the store, and I guess it does indirectly, but it starts somewhere else. So
it certainly does. Well, like I said, when we come back with Sallie Clark, we'll do a deeper dive into what the USDA is doing here in Southern Colorado with some specific examples when we come back. Stay with us.
Leonard Skinnard. Live. Saturday, September 19th, Ford Amphitheater. With special guest 38 Special. On sale Friday, 10 a.m. at leonardskinnard.com. Leonard Skinnard, live. Produced by AEG Presents.
Picnic Basket Catering Collective. Call or find us online.
Pain doesn't just announce itself, it changes how you move. And when movement changes, everything else follows. That's when experience and coordination matters most. Dr. Craig Yeager, orthopedic sports medicine surgeon here at Colorado Springs Orthopedic Group. Board-certified, fellowship-trained specialists treat the full orthopedic picture from head to toe. With our walk-in express care, advanced MRI and CT imaging, and physical therapy at 2 full-service locations, your care stays connected. Schedule today. Colorado Springs Orthopedic Group, because movement isn't optional, it's personal.
All right. Welcome back to the second quarter of Business Digest Weekly. I am your host, Dirk Hobbs. Hey, quick shout out to our sponsors and underwriters, Venue, folks that give us the Ford Amphitheater and some great entertainment here in Southern Colorado. Thank you very much for helping to underwrite the program. Also, our friends at Colorado Springs Orthopedic Group. CSOG, if you're a local. Great organization, great physicians, great experience all around. I've worked with these guys. I definitely know what I'm talking about. So thank you to CSOG. And of course, our friends at the Picnic Basket Catering Collective. Everybody knows Michelle and Kathy and have probably eaten at their table at one time or another. So thank you as well. We're here with Sallie Clark. She is the State Director of the United States Department of Agriculture and their Rural Development in Colorado. And I'm very privileged and pleased to speak with her today. She's going to give us a little background on what the USDA does here in Colorado. And largely, we're speaking to our rural audiences out there in the smaller communities of Southern Colorado. Speaking to everybody, but lean in if you're from one of those towns, because you may find a pearl of wisdom here or some action item that you can take with the USDA that maybe you didn't know you could ask for. So, Sallie, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Really glad
it's
you're here.
Great to be here. Yeah.
It's nice to have you here. Well, you just dropped a little pearl of history on me about the USDA and how it got started. Right. Share that with our audiences.
So this is the 90th year for the Rural Electrification Act. And that in 1936, that was established to start electrification across the United States, tying rural communities into electric systems. Mm-hmm. And so it's really a landmark year for us. We still work very closely with the rural electrics. In fact, we have some programs that actually help their communities with a grant program that they can adopt, and then they can do grants and relending to local small communities. But it's a big deal for us. It's how the whole thing started, and rural development started through that Rural Electrification Act.
I had no idea.
Yeah. And we were talking earlier about how it's important, to remember, where our food comes from is not generally in the downtown area, even though we may buy it
not
there.
A lot of cows in downtown Colorado Springs, except during territory days, maybe. But no, I fully appreciate that. And the electrification of it, I never thought of it through that lens. Probably most people haven't, where they just think it's a kind of an evolution, but there was an intentionality, the USDA getting involved there and helping literally plug everybody in.
And now, we also work with rural development on broadband projects to make sure that, again, we have that connectivity. It's really blossomed into just more than electrification. When you think about a rancher or farmer who, can sit on his front porch and look at an iPad and look at equipment and see what's going on. And it's really made a huge difference in how we get our food to table.
No question about it. That brings up an interesting picture in my mind of a farmer literally on his porch being able to do asset management on his tablet. Mm-hmm. Because he has that broadband capability now, thanks to the USDA. Well, for those who don't know, let's unravel this a bit, because there's a lot under the hood here I didn't even know.
Right.
And this is not your first rodeo, so to speak, with this particular organization. So you had a backgrounder on it, but share with the audiences what this program really is and kind of some of the lengths and maybe some unusual projects that you guys have put together.
Yeah. So the rural development, we have over 70 programs across the spectrum. Wow. And to make it easier to think about, if you think about ABC, which is the first three letters of the alphabet, mm-hmm. pretty easy to remember. Sure. It's affordable housing, it's business and economic development, and it's community infrastructure. Wow. And under terrific. That, then all of our programs exist. So, mm-hmm. for instance, under the affordable housing, we do direct loans to those low income, and then we have guaranteed, which would run through a bank. We also have home repair grants and loans for those who are over 62 who qualify under that low income. They can get a grant for up to $10,000 to put in a handicapped ramp, to rebuild a bathroom so it's accessible, all kinds of different things, put in a new roof, new windows for to keep them warmer during the winter, a new mm-hmm. HVAC system, those kinds of things. Yeah. And we also have a home repair loan, which is like at 1%. So it's really very, very reasonable for people to be able to get those loans to upgrade their life and safety systems. Mm-hmm. Under the business and economic development, which obviously that's a lot of what your show is about, we can do manufacturing, wholesale, retail, very much similar to the Small Business Administration, but our loans can go up to $25 million, so very large.
Yes.
We also have some really good deals if it's less than that, if it's in the $5 million range through a bank. Those are through banks, but we help manage those. We can do business acquisitions. We can do startups, purchase of installation of machinery and equipment, and then working capital, inventory, and supplies. We don't do the people, but we can do everything it takes to start a business.
Okay.
A couple of good examples of one of our rural business development grants went to Fremont County Economic Development, and they're able to do kind of a relending, and they're creating actually a business incubator that's called Project Constellation,
yes.
and it will help with training and keeping their main focus for this grant will be to keep people in Fremont County so that they get the education that they need and they want to be involved in the business and they keep it going.
Mm-hmm.
We also did the Emergent Campus, which is down in Florence, and started that with TechStart in Canyon City, where they had an incubator, and now it's now the Emergent Campus down in Florence. And then they also received a distance learning and telemedicine grant, which helped them to buy computers and other things. So there are so many programs that add on to that 70 plus programs that really help local communities to thrive and to get back on their feet if they're seeing a reduction. And the kids want to leave town, they want to get the kids back after they've gotten their education to
Correct. Create
a good engineering workforce and to stay, not leave and go to the big city.
Absolutely. Brad Rowland and Rick Harmon and those guys are doing great work out there, trying to keep that engine alive, that TechStart. And there's another emerging campus in Trinidad, on the Trinidad State College campus as well. Love that program. Now, do you guys do private-public partnerships, like with a major corporation to come in, or is it exclusively the USDA that does this work?
Mostly with these types of grants, it's a pass-through. So it would go to their local economic development arm, their Chamber of Commerce. It could be a council of governments. It could be a number of different things. And we do work a lot with the COGS, with the councils of governments as well, on everything from housing to the business side to community infrastructure. For instance, over on the Western Slope, over in the city of Montrose, we did Welcome Home Montrose, which was a veteran center that we were able to assist to get open over there. So again, there isn't really anybody we can't work with unless you're in an urban area. It's got to be rural.
We get plenty of attention, Sallie. Trust me, we do, for better or worse sometimes. But I love the body of work. Is it where they come to you or where you come to them when you identify opportunities or potential solutions?
It's a little bit of both. And in my role, my primary focus is outreach to let folks know, as I think I mentioned before, we don't want to be the best kept secret. We want to be the best well-known to help rural communities. And if we can't do it, there's probably another federal agency that we work with to pass that along. So for instance, we work a lot with economic development, with EDA, we work with Small Business Administration, we work with the Environmental Protection Agency, and we'll work with and Department of Local Affairs at the state. So a lot of times we can pool our resources together to make one better project because of the other federal agencies that we work with.
Okay.
And sometimes even the U.S. Forest Service, we have a timber production program right now that we're trying to get more support for, to create more opportunities for things like biofuels, or to reduce the amount of fuel in the wildland interface, and to utilize those that wood product for something else, so that we can help with the Forest Service and reduction of fuels in the wildland interface, while at the same time helping businesses to succeed in timber production.
Well, that's a double win, because obviously that fuel is a major concern, especially in a year like this one.
And especially in a state like Colorado,
That's
where
right.
we have a lot of forest lands,
Yes.
whether that's Bureau of Land Management or whether it's the U.S. Forest Service, which is also part of USDA.
That's right. That's right. Well, I'm getting a great education, folks. I hope you are too. And what's a good website and resource where people can start, Sallie?
Yeah, the easiest way is to just type into Google or search engine to just type in USDA rural development, and it will pop right up there. We have a Colorado website that you can get to all the states. You can find out who your state director is wherever you're located. And then we also have eligibility tools online so that, if you want to buy a house and you want to see if it's eligible where you live, you can put that into the eligibility tool and it'll tell you whether it's eligible or not under our programs.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right. When we come back, we're going to get a little more clarity on some of the projects that are happening here in Southern Colorado from our Rural Development Colorado State Director, Sallie Clark, when we come back.
Leonard Skinnard. Live. Saturday, September 19th, Ford Amphitheater. With special guest 38 Special. On sale Friday, 10 a.m. at leonardskinnard.com. Leonard Skinnard. Live. Produced by AEG Presents.
Picnic Basket Catering Collective. Call or find us online.
Pain doesn't just announce itself, it changes how you move. And when movement changes, everything else follows. That's when experience and coordination matters most. Dr. Craig Yeager, orthopedic sports medicine surgeon here at Colorado Springs Orthopedic Group. Board-certified, fellowship-trained specialists treat the full orthopedic picture from head to toe. With our walk-in express care, advanced MRI and CT imaging, and physical therapy at 2 full-service locations, your care stays connected. Schedule today. Colorado Springs Orthopedic Group, because movement isn't optional, it's personal.
All right, welcome back here to the third quarter of Business Digest Radio. Certainly glad you're with us. Another busy week here in Southern Colorado. We have Air Force graduation going on today. Hopefully we'll hear the sound of freedom, as some call it, with the Thunderbirds. Hopefully the cloud deck lifts a little bit and gives us a little bit of a show. I know Vice President Vance is here in the community giving the commencement address, so welcome, Vice President Vance. And congratulations to all you cadets out there who are finally able to do that very symbolic throw of the hat up into the air. So well done, cadets. Thank you for your service and about what you're going to do here in the next several years. World's greatest Air Force, and we're very proud of it. And we're proud that the United States Air Force Academy is here in Southern Colorado. It's a great asset to the community and certainly a wonderful asset to the United States. So congratulations to all the cadets. Very special guest across the board from me today, Sallie Clark, who a lot of you know, who has served almost her entire life in public service.
It seems entire life.
Pretty close,
seems
though.
Seems like it, yeah.
But you worked here in the community as a commissioner, and you've been with the USDA formerly before. Before that? Is that correct?
Yeah. From 2017 to 2021, and then I was asked to come back in May of last year.
Okay,
so, yeah.
By President Trump. That's an appointment by President Trump. What is that process like?
Basically, I mean, there's different ways to get appointed, but I think they knew me from before. So you have to go through an interview process,
of course,
and application, and you talk about, what your skill set is and whether it fits within what they need. And so I was grateful to be able to come back to my position.
Yeah. Now, who appointed you the first time?
It was President Trump.
Oh, it was President Trump. So you're back for a second round.
I had a different secretary.
Okay.
At that time, it was the Secretary of Agriculture was Sonny Perdue, former governor of Georgia. And this time it's Brooke Rollins. Secretary Brooke Rollins.
Very good.
She's been awesome to work for. She's got some great passion for this country and, farming and ranching and all the things that we've been working in tandem with Health and Human Services on the Make America Healthy Again program, the MAHA movement to reverse that pyramid so that people ate more healthy foods. And I think it's really been great that she's got a Farmers First agenda, but it's also supporting all of the other portions of the agency that most people don't even think about. There's essentially 7 mission areas, and we are one of those.
Okay. Let me ask you this. The United States Department of Agriculture, in your specific role, you handle rural development.
Correct.
Okay. So you said it before, and it bears repeating, ABC. Run us through those again.
So A is for affordable housing. So we do direct and guaranteed loans for housing loans in rural areas. We also have a home repair process where home repair, you can either get a loan or a grant depending on your what qualifies. And then under housing, we also do self-help housing. So for instance, down in Fremont County in Florence, we just built, I think it's about 8 new homes that was sort of a pass-through by the local entity that it's actually through the COG, the UCOG, help to sponsor that. So people actually put sweat equity. So it's much like a Habitat for Humanity type of process where the homeowners put sweat equity into their homes. So that's kind of under the A for affordable housing. And then B is really for business and economic development. So lots of different programs under that business and economic development arm. And then under the C really is community infrastructure. So both buildings, facilities, hospitals, we can help schools. And then we also have water and wastewater, which is a big part of, we call it WEP. WEP stands for Water and Environmental Programs. We have a ton of acronyms, and I'm not going to name them. So nor could I probably name them all. But
I don't blame you. So it's a lot of alphabet soup.
Yeah. And then there is a component that we were talking about earlier about this is the 90th anniversary of the Rural Electrification Act. And the importance is we have rural utility service, which also provides broadband. And we have a distance learning and telemedicine grant program that's open now, where schools can apply for that money. Schools and other businesses can apply to get computers and telecommunications equipment. So there's just a lot to offer through rural development, and I'm just grateful to be there and be able to share this information.
Oh, I love that you're championing the walk. So thank you for that service. So when you look at Colorado, when you came back to the job, so to speak, and you looked at Colorado at an executive high-level summary, what was the state of the rural community group here in Colorado at that time?
I think that I was just at a meeting a couple weeks ago where they talked about, the state demographer came to talk about Colorado in general. Elizabeth was great. Yes. The new person who's doing the state demography office is great too. It's really, really interesting to see where we're seeing growth and where we're seeing a decline. And from a growth perspective, most of the rural areas are doing pretty well. There's certain portions of our state sort of in the lower, I would say, kind of eastern part of the state that are struggling a little bit more. But a lot of folks in the cities are moving to the rural communities because they want to get out of the traffic and the congestion. And, I don't know, sometimes I think we create the same thing we're trying to leave. But from a rural perspective, I think there's just so much opportunity out there. The people just in the rural areas have such a heart for other people, their community.
It's a community.
They really do. And it gives you a warm sense of just heartfelt appreciation for what they go through, to try and make sure that they have, as we were talking about rural electrification, the importance of that now becomes, how do we get broadband there? How do you make sure that they can link in so that there's an ability to run a business in a small community, to get to, upgrade things so that you're reducing your footprint in terms of, a new freezer for a grocery store and the cost that is borne by some of that. And I've been to some of the greatest little cafes along the way and coffee shops in rural areas where everyone congregates there. Yeah. And it's just, it's an amazing process to see the people that really make rural America great.
Now, when you're there, for example, let's pick, I don't know, we'll pick Walsenburg, okay? You're downtown, you stop at a cafe. Would you be a person that initiates a conversation, or would your staff be people that initiate, hey, we hear, you might be having some issues with your refrigeration system or something like that? Or is that kind of how it could work?
Normally what we do is we try and pull roundtables together. So for instance, we just did a round. We just did a roundtable in Los Animas, which is actually in Bent County. We have a service center there. And then we went to Sterling and did one there. Oh, wow. And now we're looking to go over to Delta over on the Western Slope. We have a service center there, so we'll hold something there. And usually what I start with is I reach out to the county commissioners and the city council members, and then the housing authorities, the go-to people, the economic development councils, the councils of government, generally those that are involved in community development and know what's going on, and they want to work with us. And then we'll pull them together and I'll give a presentation. Sometimes I do them virtually. So I've been on, quite a few virtual presentations where I can go on and talk about our programs, and then we get general follow-ups, and then I just pass them along to our program directors. So I have a community programs director, I have a program director in charge of housing, and one in charge of our business program. So I pass them to them, and then they follow up to get more information to see if they qualify.
That's amazing. So this really can be a lifeline for those businesses, and then the ability to sustain their business through what they might otherwise be perceiving as a career ending or a business killing expense or project. And then they have this kind of lifeline back to the USDA where they may not be aware of all the problems you potentially can address.
Yeah, and we were just in Hayden a few weeks ago up by Steamboat Springs up in that part of the state, providing a relending, really a grant so that then they can relend to small businesses and help those small businesses with a low interest rate to be able to expand their businesses. So it's just a great program to be able to provide those. And there were county commissioners there were city council members, the mayor was there. It was these small towns. Just if I want to hold something in a small town, you call like one person, and they spread the word pretty quickly.
That's right. Next thing you know, you have a town hall.
That's right.
That's awesome. Okay. Well, how can urban centers like Pueblo, Colorado Springs, Castle Rock, perhaps, is there something that they can contribute to make your jobs easier or better, or pull in the rural communities into solutions they may not be thinking of as well without replacing the USDA services?
Well, obviously we can't do directly any of our loans or programs through large communities. However, some of those communities or those counties have rural areas. City and County of Denver, absolutely not. There's just nothing rural there. Right. But if you go to somewhere like Arapahoe, and there are little pockets that can qualify for some of our programs. So sometimes what also puts them out is the area median income may be above what our programs can deliver.
Okay.
So
there is a qualification.
It's a qualification. So it's a number of different factors. But, the great thing is we can work with small, like water districts. We can work with special districts, HOAs. So if there's a small HOA that needs they need a small water project done, we can work directly with the homeowners association.
That's phenomenal.
But it has to qualify under our rural definition.
Absolutely.
Which is different in every single one of our programs.
Well, I would imagine so.
So that makes it a little complicated.
Yeah.
What I like to say is we just need to know what you need. And you can come to me, come to our staff, you can go to our website, and then we'll see how we can get there. We want to be kind of an agency of yes if we can get to yes.
Very good. Well, if you're in one of those rural communities here in southern Colorado, you can just, any of your search engines, type USDA Colorado and get a look under the hood at what potentially you can partner with them on in a project in your community. We'll be back with Sallie Clark in just a moment.
Leonard Skinnard. Live. Saturday, September 19th, Ford Amphitheater. With special guest 38 Special. On sale Friday, 10 a.m. at leonardskinnard.com. Leonard Skinnard. Live. Produced by AEG Presents.
Picnic Basket Catering Collective. Call or find us online.
Pain doesn't just announce itself, it changes how you move. And when movement changes, everything else follows. That's when experience and coordination matters most. Dr. Craig Yeager, orthopedic sports medicine surgeon here at Colorado Springs Orthopedic Group, board-certified, fellowship-trained specialists treat the full orthopedic picture from head to toe. With our walk-in express care, advanced MRI and CT imaging, and physical therapy at 2 full-service locations, your care stays connected. Schedule today. Colorado Springs Orthopedic Group, because movement isn't optional, it's personal.
All right, we're in the fourth quarter here, Business Digest Radio. Glad you're with us. I'm your host, Dirk Hobbs. Welcome back to the program. We're hanging out with Sallie Clark. She is the State Director for Rural Development in Colorado for the United States Department of Agriculture, aka the USDA. Glad you're with us.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks,
a couple of real quick websites I want to give you. If you're listening in an office or not in your car, don't do this in your car, but you can always go back to the podcast on Spotify, iHeart, or go to socodigest.com. Go about halfway down the page and you'll see the podcast there. But there's a URL I want to help you out with. It's RD, as in rural development, .usda.gov/CO. And the easiest way to remember is go to your search engine, type in USDA Colorado, and then you'll start to find your way around into the rural development area. Also, they have an X account at RD_Colorado. And if you need to get a hold of them, 720-544-2940. Now, today we've talked to Sallie about a lot of the programs that the USDA does, probably unbeknownst to a lot of folks in any urban center. But they have developed projects from affordable housing to building economic prosperity to community infrastructure. And I think this is very important for the listeners out there to know and understand. And if you have a dynamic in your community that you're facing that has maybe some financial insurmountable odds in terms of getting it repaired or fixed, then maybe the USDA is a good first conversation to have. So, Sallie, welcome back.
Thank you.
I'm very glad you're here.
Thank you.
So, and thank you for explaining this, because frankly, I had no idea the depth and breadth and width and everything, the scope of what you all are doing. Sounds like amazing work.
Yeah, well, I won't go through all the acronyms either. So
right.
That's a whole
Thank you for
list.
blessing our audience for that. Yes.
Under USDA Rural Development, which is what I oversee for the state of Colorado, the main thing to remember, we have over 70 programs in our portfolio. And USDA, as a general agency, if we were a bank, we would be in the top 10 in the country.
Wow.
Just because we have Farm Service Agency, which handles farm loans, all of the different aspects of USDA and what we do under rural development. It's a very successful product to help rural America, and that's where we come in. So I work alongside my counterpart, Jerry Sonnenberg, who is with the Farm Service Agency. He's the state executive director, former state senator, and great to be able to work with him. We work alongside the Natural Resources Conservation Service, which I think I mentioned during the break. NRCS helped here in El Paso County a lot with the post-fire flooding that we saw after the Waldo Canyon fire. So a lot of other agencies, 7 really mission areas under USDA. And while my shop works with farmers sometimes with our value-added producer grants as an example. Most of what we do is really to work with communities, whether that be a homeowner, someone who wants to buy a home in a rural area, whether that's a business and economic development project and to help businesses succeed in rural areas, or whether that's community infrastructure, which includes water and wastewater, and for these small communities that they really don't have any capacity or monetary capacity to do the work.
Tax bases and things. So did I hear you correctly when you mentioned schools and health systems as well, or health clinics?
Yes, we've built, and Mount San Rafael down in Trinidad is one of our projects that we did. Actually, when I was with Rural Development previously, we were working on that. We did a major rehab on their hospital. We've done quite a few different hospitals throughout the state, and they have to be rural in nature, but that is as one of our focus areas. And then we also have a distance learning and telemedicine program. So we've done everything from mental health to clinics to provide telemedicine abilities so that they can communicate when there may not be a doc there all the time.
Now, is it up to the health systems for transport and like Flight for Life and things like that, or is that something USDA can help with as well?
We don't directly help with the staffing.
Got it. That's right.
Ours is more equipment related. So like the DLT program or distance learning and telemedicine could provide computers in schools. It could help with hospital equipment and telemedicine equipment. That program is open right now through June 30th. So if someone's interested, they need to reach out to us, and then we'll put them in touch with the individual who oversees that program.
Since that deadline is coming up, that bears repeating. So what category and what's the deadline again?
June 30th is the deadline for the distance learning and telemedicine program.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So all of our programs have some are all year. So for instance, the business and industry loans, like I mentioned, Fading West was one of those that took out a loan a number of years ago, and they're doing very well. They're manufactured housing over in Buena Vista.
Sure.
And so that's one really good example of one of the larger loans that we did. But at the same time, those also go along the budget cycles. So the congressional budget will end in end of September. And so, but right now we have funding for most of our programs.
Got it. Okay. And I mentioned Walsenburg to you earlier. At one point, each of the retailers down their main street was given a certain amount of money to refresh the front facades. Would that be something that the USDA would do, or is
we
that
could certainly
something?
work with the economic development, whoever their agency is. It might be a city or a county. We can work with the government agencies. We can work with nonprofits. A lot of times they're pass-through dollars that can help revitalize a community. Again, just come to me and kind of think of it as a one-stop shop.
Sure.
If you have a need, even if we can't provide it, we'll see if there's another federal agency or even state agency that could help them. A lot of times we pool together money from things like Department of Local Affairs has the Division of Housing. We talk to them pretty frequently about what their priorities are, and Department of Local Affairs, which has had some substantial grants in a lot of the projects that we've done, primarily a lot of water and water and wastewater projects.
And I would imagine that's probably going to get more and more busy because of, as you mentioned earlier, kind of the sprawl back out to the rural communities from the urban centers. I mean, that sounds very refreshing sometimes, to be able to go to a small town and not have to fight the traffic and, all the property taxes and everything that goes along with it.
Someone on a recent meeting, a virtual meeting I was on, held up a piece of a water pipe, and it was wooden.
Oh my goodness.
It was like a piece of wood that was round.
That's
and
old.
It was like, this is an old pipe. This is what our water system looks like. And, you can't build more housing and you can't build more businesses if you don't have water.
That's correct.
And resources and a wastewater treatment system.
And that's where you guys step in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Powerful stuff. Well, what action would you like our listeners to take? Obviously, connecting with your offices and exploring, get to know what the USDA is capable of doing in the rural development arm. And then what are the next steps? Is there a kind of a project manager that's involved and somebody they become very friendly with in the community, I would imagine, who's spearheading those conversations? Is that right?
Yeah, so that's why we have local staff in Colorado. So, and sometimes we become, there's more projects than we can handle. So we do pass that along to the national office for their assistance. But primarily, you're working with a loan specialist in a community. And even though our specialists are also in rural communities, like we have an office in the town of Los Animas, down in Bent County, and one over in Delta and in different parts of the state. We don't really have like territories, so they handle all of the states. So you might work with a loan specialist who might be in Denver, but they're servicing something in a town of Walsenburg, for instance. I think the most impactful for us is just to pass the word that USDA Rural Development in Colorado has these programs. And if someone comes to you and says, I'd really love to build a house and, in a small rural community, have you looked into USDA Rural Development? Because we have a housing program. If somebody needs, for instance, over in Fremont County, I'm sorry, not in Fremont, but in Fort Garland, recently there was a water situation where they were carting their water to cisterns, and the local water district turned off the tap and they couldn't, so they were hauling a long distance.
Yes.
We were able to provide a grant loan combination to an individual who was afraid she wouldn't have water, and we were able to drill a new well for her. So that's that's the kind of thing that we do, because we can work with individuals, we can, in the housing programs, we can work with economic development specialists, we can work with cities, towns, counties, just a variety, and individual businesses as well.
Very good. Sallie, this has been a great education. Thank you for this.
It's a lot to remember.
It's a ton to remember, but I think the bottom line for a lot of our listeners is, you don't have to sit there isolated from the rest of the world thinking your problems have no solution, because in actuality, they could have very strong solutions that are more permanent and more effectual than anything you might be considering today. So again, go to your search browsers, whether you're using Chrome or Safari or anything like that. Just type in USDA Colorado, and for good measure, throw in the word rural development, and you'll be directed to their homepage where you can kind of start to get a feel and a sense for the breadth and scope of what they're capable of doing. And I really appreciate you doing this because, I often wonder, how do those communities survive or undertake these projects, which you clearly know are millions of dollars, right? And I'm like, there's no tax base here. This has got to be, where is this coming from? Is this private? But no, a lot of it is the USDA.
And we're there to really support the main streets that the farmers and ranchers utilize, that their families utilize, to make sure it's a community that lasts and that is successful. Because it's a struggle, and we need that farm to table. It gets to our tables through a grocery store, but it also comes from rural areas, and the importance of it is something that I feel just very grateful that I can be a part of.
We're glad you're there.
Thank you.
And thank you to your team for all the hard work they're doing out there.
They do an awesome job. We're small but mighty, and we really do. And my staff they care so much for the people that they serve. So it's not just about the loan processing. It's that they care about the towns, and they understand, because most of them are from small rural communities.
Right. Well, and to see that gratitude come into play when you're there in a position to actually make a big difference.
That's right.
For the lives that are in that community. That's pretty powerful stuff. Well, folks, thank you for listening and joining us here on Business Digest Weekly. We're back next week. We have a conversation with Alex Kovacs, who is the aviation director at Colorado Springs Airport. He's going to kind of give you an update on what's going on out there, from the power plant that has moved south of there all the way through what Colorado Springs Airport is up to next. So stick with us for that. We're back on next Friday when we'll air that episode. And again, congratulations to all the cadets out there at the United States Air Force Academy. Congratulations, you finally made it. And Sallie Clark, Rural Development, Colorado, United States Department of Agriculture. That's a lot on your card, but you guys do an incredible body of work. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Really appreciate having you. All right, folks, have a wonderful weekend.
You've been listening to Business Digest Radio, Colorado's source for business, workforce, and economic development news. Find us on Spotify, iHeart, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and at socodigest.com. To be featured on the show, email info@coloradomediagroup.com.